What is going on, Jet fans? I am Matt O'Leary, back with another video, and today what I would like to get into is the Keith Carter drama. Now, you've probably heard this story already, and a lot of creators have talked about it. I myself even mentioned it briefly on the pod earlier today. Make sure to check out the podcast if you haven't already. But it goes a little bit deeper than just the surface level issues, because there is a bigger problem with all of this than just Keith Carter not being good at his job and how that impacted the Jets in 2023 and how it impacts the guys on the team going forward. You'll catch on in a minute what I mean by that. It goes deeper than just hey, Keith Carter isn't good and impacted the 2023 team. So if you're unfamiliar or living under a rock, Taylor Lewan posted a picture about Mike Vrabel when he was fired by the Tennessee Titans. And in the captions, it said he loved his coaching staff besides Keith Carter. Now, friend of the program, NYJ Matt, tweeted out the screen grab of that. The image, the screenshot of the post on Instagram, and Breece Hall quote tweeted it with the laughing emoji. Tweet's still up if you want to go look at it. Breece Hall with the laughing emoji. Now, is he laughing at it saying it's ridiculous that people are hating against Keith Carter, or is he laughing because he agrees? I would tend to believe that he is laughing because he agrees based on some of his other social media activity throughout this season, especially during his struggles. And, you know, there was a point during the season where Breece Hall struggled in the run game a little bit for a few weeks. Not that it was all his fault or not that he's an overrated running back, none of those things. But there was a stretch where the yards per attempt numbers were down, finished the season strong, finished with nearly 1,000 yards, over 1,500, almost 1,600 all-purpose yards, and was a very, very good player for this team. But that's not all. You also had Mekhi Becton, who said the second paragraph is nothing but facts when talking about, or referencing rather, the Keith Carter comments. Now, I've already discussed again why I think that Keith Carter is not right for the job because of how he runs the practices and how he has an impact on the number of injuries that this offensive line has faced. If you looked at the Jets offensive line injuries throughout the season, not all, but a lot happened in practice. There were many times throughout the week where guys were getting banged up in practices and not the games. But there's something else with this that people are missing in the discussion. And again, it might be more important than the injuries that were sustained this year, which you might be scratching your head and going, well, you know, it doesn't ABT change a lot of things? Doesn't, you know, Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton being healthy change a lot of things? And yes, but hear me out. What do you think this means for the New York Jets, who are going to have to be active in free agency on the offensive line? That is my question. If his reputation around the league, if the Jets are employing an offensive line coach who is notoriously incredibly tough on players, breaks them down injury-wise, has unrealistic expectations, all things that were said by players who worked under or played under Keith Carter, what does that do for the future of this Jets team, the 2024 New York Jets, who, let's face it, everyone has stated that it is at an absolute bare minimum necessity to be a playoff team. We are looking at an offseason where this franchise could be looking for 2, possibly 3 new starters on the offensive line. You have Elijah Vera-Tucker and Joe Tippmann, who everyone is comfortable plugging back in on the offensive line. Tippmann at either guard or center. It doesn't matter where you fall on it. AVT at either tackle or guard. There's a debate on where they can go, but those 2 guys, no matter who you are, they're getting penciled in somewhere on the offensive line as a starter. The third question mark is Laken Tomlinson. You can cut Laken Tomlinson and free up $8 million, or you have other people who are saying, and I get this, keep Laken Tomlinson because that would be too much turnover and asking too much on the offensive line to find 3 new starters. So at an absolute minimum, you're looking at 2 new offensive linemen who need to be, not depth, like 2 new starters, maybe even 3. Now, they have a top 10 pick, which you can absolutely use on one of the offensive line spots. But do you want to pigeonhole yourself into that? And what positions are you looking to add? If you are keeping Elijah Vera Tucker at guard and not tackle, you are looking for 2 new starting tackles, which means probably going to have to use both draft and free agency to fill those needs. Even if you're moving AVT out to guard, out from guard to tackle, you are likely going to have to find the starting guard in free agency, a tackle in the draft, and maybe, some more depth throughout the process. Moral of the story, the Jets were expected and are still expected. This doesn't change anything from our expectations for the offseason. But for a team that is looking to acquire multiple starting offensive linemen, does it make sense to have someone who has a terrible reputation around the league with players? If you had a choice to go to the Jets to work with Keith Carter or somewhere else where there is a better offensive line coach, a better situation, which one are you choosing? Assuming money is the same. Now, we've heard last year, remember Orlando Brown was someone that the Jets were looking to, go after, and they made a big run on. They didn't get him, but part of it was because of the situation, right? He goes somewhere else. But could the offensive line coach not play a factor in that? A positional coach is someone who you're dealing with every single day in meetings and in practice. The coordinator and the head coach play a big role as well in the decision of where you're choosing to go to play and the system that you're running. But think about it from the player's perspective and how tight-knit the position group rooms are. Offensive line, tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, the whole thing. But your positional coach is someone that you are even more close with, more often than not. There's exceptions to the rules, obviously. But it's kind of like there's a pecking order. It goes coach, coordinator, positional coach. And it kind of funnels down a little bit. It goes broader to more focused offensive defensive coordinator who oversees all their positional coaches. And the positional coaches are kind of, at the bottom with the players. So why are you going to sign up for a positional coach that's going to cause you problems, that is going to have these unrealistic standards set for what to expect in practice, to maybe wear you down and not give you the necessary recovery time throughout the week before you have another game day? That absolutely plays a factor in all of this. So I don't know what the Jets are going to do. It's a really bad look for him to be like, hey, we're bringing everybody back on the offensive staff on the worst offense in the NFL. I'm really dumbfounded by this decision, and I would make a change. I've made that abundantly clear a month ago when I talked about Keith Carter and his role in the injuries this year on the offensive line. And now, especially when you have multiple players coming out and not a former player on the Titans talking about Keith Carter. I know that doesn't have an impact on this team, but you have Mekhi Becton and Breece Hall, 2 young players who were vocal about this. But yeah, let's run it back. That makes absolute sense, right? Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.